Hey everybody, I decided to do a weeding 101 video. I'm thinking that I might do a series of sort of gardening 101 videos for those of you who may not have a garden and who may be perhaps intimidated by the prospect of starting a garden. I'm going to try and keep it relatively simple and perhaps give you some tips on things that maybe other gardeners have glossed over because they think that other people know how to do this when they don't necessarily know how to do this. So what are weeds? Weeds are plants that have popped up in your garden that were not plants that you had planted there. We could get complicated and start to talk about good weeds, so edible weeds, weeds that you could actually make use of, but that is a little bit complicated for like a 101 type course, so we're just going to assume that all weeds that pop up in our garden are not usable by us and so therefore are bad weeds. Why are these weeds bad exactly? What do they do? So every plant of course requires sunlight, water, and nutrients to grow. And since you are growing plants that you have planted, whether they're vegetables or flowers, you want those plants to get all of the nutrients, water, and sunlight that they can, and that's unfortunately threatened by the presence of any weeds. So when it rains and the soil is moist, the roots of the weeds will end up sucking up some of that water, and that's water that can't be sucked up by the roots of your plants. Damn mosquitoes, I should have put on bug spray. Additionally, all the nutrients, with the three big ones being nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, along with some trace minerals. So all the nutrients in your soil should be going to the plants that you have planted, and some of them will be going to the growth of the weeds. Again, so your weeds are stealing the nutrients that should be going into your plants. So those are the big ways that weeds inhibit the growth of your plants. But if you do let them get too big, which can sometimes happen since, sometimes you don't feel like going out and weeding, especially if it's a hot, sunny day. But if they do get big enough, they can also end up shading out your plants, meaning that they get so tall that they keep the sun from getting to the leaves of your plants, thus inhibiting the process of photosynthesis, which is what produces sugars for your plants to use to grow. To give you a demonstration, I've got a fork right here. This is your tool of choice for weeding. It's great for digging in and loosening up the root systems of the weeds so that when you pull them out, you're not just pulling up the top, because if you just pull off the top, then the roots will just sprout another top to replace the one that you've removed, and so it's really only a matter of time before you have weeds again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this fork and I'm going to dig it into the soil and just drag it from side to side. So what that will do is it will unearth many of the weeds. Then I go in with my gloved hand and I just pick out the weeds from where they sit on top of the soil. Now, if there was a lot of sun and it was a very sunny day, you could just leave the weeds sitting on top of the soil, and the sun would dry them out so that they wouldn't sprout again. Since there's a lot of shade on this garden, I'm going to pick out all the weeds that I unearth. See here, this is the patch of earth that I just weeded, and using that technique that I described, it only took me maybe 3 seconds to do a 6 square foot amount of space. I hope that was helpful for you. I am going to go inside before the mosquitoes eat me alive, and I'll see you on the next video. Happy gardening!